So this morning, the subject which has got everyone talking is it ever right to discipline somebody else's child? How would you react? How have you reacted if someone else tells off your child?
And what if they went a step further? This photo shows an elderly man who's apparently putting a young boy, about 11 years old, in an arm lock on a train after claims the child refused to take his feet off a seat.
Well, broadcaster Sally Jones is here. And you say you're not afraid to step in.
No, I have occasionally stepped in. I'm not sure I would go quite so far as an arm lock.
OK.
How far would you go?
Well, I think certainly sort of low-scale kind of discipline to start with. If a child is making a terrible noise in public or is being really annoying and knows it's being annoying, because most children do, my first tactic is actually a sort of beady look and then a terrible sort of wolfish smile.
Terrifying.
So they know. OK, let's talk to author Tanith Carey, who joins us from Wales. Very good morning to you, Tanith. So there's a special look that Sally does. Do you ever intervene if a child is misbehaving, say, on public transport?
Well, if I was to intervene, I wouldn't intervene and talk directly to the child. I would talk to the parent, because it's really not my place. It's really the responsibility of the parent to impose authority on their child.
Okay,
and actually, it's not really going to help if I weighed in.
Right, but in this case, the parents weren't there. You've got three unruly 11-year-old kids clearly behaving very disrespectfully to other passengers, feet on the desk.
Allegedly, we don't know all the details.
Allegedly, yeah. I think an 11-year-old's going to be serious, but anyway. But let's just assume that kind of hypothetical situation.
The 8-year-old had his foot on the...
Well, yeah, apparently these kids had their feet on the chairs, their feet on the table and so on. At what point, if you were there and there was no parent, no guardian, do you intervene, and how would you intervene?
I would have found the train guard and asked them to intervene, because it's not my place. I might have... It's also how you say it. I mean, this man went totally over the top. We don't know the psychological profile of this man. We don't know if he hates every single child out there. It was not his place to do anything so physically violent and abusive as what this man did.
Sally, is there any...
I mean, he could have whispered, he could have...
I actually don't think that, obviously, he had really no right to go putting people into an arm lock, but I think there often is a basic sort of physical thing that you can do. I mean, I actually, the red mist came down once when I was stopped recently by traffic lights. A teenager in the car in front suddenly dumped a load of fast food wrappers out onto the road, and I'm a terrible old sort of nana about litter, so I just leapt out of the car, got this pile of stuff, and then shoved it straight back through the window.
Did you really?
I suddenly thought,
and how did he
what the
react?
hell have I done? You've never heard language like it, either from the child's parent that was driving, I think it was probably the parent, or the other two, him, the teenager, and another teenager that was in the car. But I leapt back into the car, and one of my own kids said, "What on earth were you thinking of?" You know? And I suddenly thought, oh, God.
I mean, if for argument's sake, Tanith, if one of these kids who had no guardian or parent, and there's two others, if they, having been asked repeatedly by this old guy to behave or to stop doing what they were doing, if they then turned on him, we don't know this, but assuming hypothetically one of them had turned on him and issued a volley of foul-mouthed abuse at this guy, at what point should he just take this? And at what point should he say, no, you are not going to behave like this, and if your parents can't control you, I will?
I think, Piers, that's very hypothetical. I mean, all these boys did was put their feet on the seat. I mean, let's not sweat the small stuff.
We don't know that.
I mean, I do think there is a crisis. Yeah, well, you don't... Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us were there. I think, from what I gather, the boy just had his feet on those seats. I mean, really? I mean...
But I'm giving you a hypothetical where if he had been very lippy, one of these kids, we don't know, but assuming they had, I'm just trying to work out, because I think we're all a bit, like, not quite sure where that line should be drawn. If a kid starts giving you foul-mouthed abuse and they're putting their feet on tables and chairs and disrupting everybody, and there's no guardian, no parent, and they're being completely out of control, at what point are you ever allowed, as somebody who's got no connection to that child, to go, no, you're not doing this?
a fantasy that a short, sharp shock from a stranger is going to dramatically sort that out. I mean, if the child is that out of control, the intervention of one person is not going to fix it. It goes back to the parenting of that child. And I do think there is a crisis in parenting, and we do find it very hard to impose boundaries. And I do think parents need more help to work out what their values are. And I think the best way to do that is more parenting classes. But you wading in and just basically physically disciplining a child is not going to fix the problem overnight. They're not going to be so shocked that they're muted into sudden subservience and obedience. You know, it's just not going to work. It's kind of an old, outdated 1970s concept that didn't work then and won't work now.
But I think actually a verbal cue, just saying to the child, would you mind not doing that? First of all, politely. Obviously, if the parent's there, you say politely, would you mind stopping your child, for example, kicking the back of the cinema seat, which happened to me recently. So I just said quietly to the parent, do you mind, you know, stopping him doing that? And it went on and on. And so in the end, I said, would you mind moving 3 or 4 places along where there is nobody behind him, because he will not stop. The parent looked very put out, but I hadn't been horrible to the child. And the same thing.
Did they move?
They did move, yes, they did. And I was pleasant and not nasty, but I was going to escalate it.
I think there's a lot of brats out there who have no parental authority instilled upon them, and, you know, at some stage the brats have to get a little bit of discipline in their lives, don't they?
I think an awful lot of parents would really have sympathised with the man who did the arm lock. They wouldn't have done it themselves.
No.
They could see where he was coming from.
I would love to know exactly what else went on there, because I reckon the kid must have given him a load of verbal as well. Anyway, Sally Jones, thank you very much. Tanith Carey, who, by the way, was one of my finest feature writers at the Daily Mirror for many years. So lovely to see her on the show today.